the Midas featured Covalent Docking revamp, basically a more sophisticated, very smooth version of Covalent Docking. We have introduced or adjusted the target view control, how to visualize things, some tweaks here and there, and something very nice for people working in high-performance computing, namely the external docking mode. So those will be the topics for SeeSAR. In regards to infiniSee, we will talk about the Hoc Libraries feature that we have introduced in 6.1. Also the, I would say now, very augmented compound assessment subsequently to the scoring. We have new chemical elements that we can use in queries. And furthermore, the most desired feature of the Motif Matcher, namely the R group search. So this is what's on the menu today, and without any further ado, I will dive into the first session. I shared a little bit too early, doesn't matter. The major feature of the SeeSAR 13.1 is the very sophisticated covalent docking. We have now implemented an automatic detection of covalent warheads within a docking set. And this is the overview. Basically, whatever is MedChem-like or used as a covalent warhead nowadays, it's part of the series. 36 are automatically recognized and translated into their target-bound form. So it's not like you have pre-process or post-process your ligands. It's no longer required. You just load them directly straight into the docking mode. And if you select the covalent docking feature, those will be detected and transformed accordingly. Very nice, very beautiful. This is the overview. It's also available on our SeeSAR subpage. If there's anything we are lacking, please let us know so we can also implement this in the future updates. I think that's basically it on the slide size. Yes, it is. So therefore, without further ado, let's dive into SeeSAR. For the covalent docking, I decided to go with an echo structure because we have AlphaFold, obviously, and I would like to recreate like a very common scenario. So if nothing is complex anywhere. So for this, I will now load GPCR, namely the human P2Y12 receptor. This is an AlphaFold model. I'm not lying. I straight just downloaded it from the software website, website. And this is the orientation of my GPCR. Basically, this is the membrane zone here. This is the extracellular lumen, and this is the intracellular lumen. I know that some people may now argue with me that AlphaFold models of GPCRs are not very sophisticated. That's true, but to be fair, of the P2Y12 receptor, there is several crystal structures available, and therefore this model is more or less fine to be used. The first thing I need to do is to define my binding site. For this, I will go to the binding site mode of SeeSAR and click on the Show Hide Unoccupied Pockets. And after a few seconds, I will be presented with a lot of cotton candy clouds. And I will pick this yellow one. This is also the orthosteric binding site for P2Y12. I think this is the most commonly known one in GPCRs. After selecting my cotton candy cloud, all residues in its proximity or that make up this binding site will be automatically added to the definition. Now I just have to confirm everything and I'm good to go. So since we're talking about covalent docking, we need to go to the docking mode. So let's go to mode selection and to the docking mode. Now you should ask us, what would we like to target? For the first thing I would like to do, I will go now to the target view control, select the residues, and focus only on the binding site. Now I have only those residues that are part of the binding site present in my target view control. And let's go with something wild for covalent docking, namely at cysteine. Now I type down cysteine here in the search bar, and I see within my binding site definition, 3 cysteines are there. So let's go through them. I will now right-click on this cysteine and focus view on this compound. What I see here, pretty common motif, I have a disulfide bridge of the extracellular 2. So maybe not the best thing cysteine to target. Let's go to the next one. 175, again, part of the desulfide bridge, so no luck here. But if I focus on cysteine 194, I will see that deep down at the ATP binding site of the endogenous ligand, sorry, I have to zoom in again, we have a beautiful cysteine. The first thing I need to do for covalent docking is to select what residues I would like to target. So this is something that has changed from 13.0 to 13.1. You will now notice that a lot of residues, or the side chains particularly, now contain those cylinders that are the indicators for covalent attachment points. We support a lot of residues, the most known ones, tyrosine, cysteine, lysine, and so on and so forth. Ultimately, there is also a possibility to create your own definition of an attachment point, like if you would like to do covalent docking on a sugar, maybe. This is something that you can do with a proteins mode, but this is not part of the presentation today. But just be aware it's possible. So since I would like to target this cysteine, I will right-click on it, and now it will be also highlighted in purple, which means if I will run a covalent docking, then my ligands will be attached to this particular residue. For covalent docking, we need two things, the target structure, and obviously we also need some ligands. So the first thing I will do is now load some molecules. I have prepared a small diverse library. Let's go with molecules for covalent docking. And what I get here, you will see a very diverse selection of covalent warheads, acrylamides, esters, unsaturated stuff, fuels, and so on and so forth. So basically everything that you would be aware of if you are into medicinal chemistry and covalent drug discovery. The beauty of the new sophisticated covalent docking, that's basically it. We have our ligands, we defined our binding site and have selected the residue for attachment. And the only thing that remains to do is to actually start the docking run. And if we now click on covalent docking, we are now docking 20 molecules. And now we are already in the scoring step. And that's it. We are informed that 6 of the 20 molecules were not docked because there were clashes, subdirect, so nothing we should worry about. And this is now our docking result. Let's rank them and go through the results. And what you will see here, we again get the traffic light scheme for additional assessment of the poses. And here we are. You can see that it was transformed. So the beauty behind this one is also we are actually getting informations what happened. So this allyl ester or vinyl ester was recognized. So basically the first thing after the molecule name is the warhead. Then we get an information what happened there. And if we go through the poses, we can also focus a little bit more. We can also see the results. So it's a pretty small molecule, so I don't expect too many changes. But again, covalent warhead, there are information that happened. And that's basically it. So this is very sophisticated and very easy covalent docking. Just a few clicks. So sometimes, this is a very good question, actually, what about the stereochemistry? So in some cases, maybe I can find an example. I think there was one with this one. So in this example, the epoxide, it is a ring opening reaction where we introduce a stereocenter on the molecule. Not in this case though, so this is a bad example, maybe there's a better one. At Cyridine, same thing. So ultimately, what is happening? If a stereocenter is created during the transformation, so basically if the covalent bond that is formed with the target structure introduces an additional stereocenter at your ligand, we do sample both enantiomers, right? So it's not like you're missing something. We consider both of them in the process. So the whole sampling there considers everything in this regard. If you would like to do another docking run, it's quite easy. Let's remove the first one. Maybe you would love to do a docking run on, let's say, this lysine here. You just can select. You can see here, the cysteine is no longer selected. Now the lysine is selected. And again, Covalent Docking. Starting the run. Speed-wise, I would say Covalent Docking docking, because we already have an idea where to start from. I were to place the first fragment, therefore the whole process is accelerated. We have finished already, and here we can see the created and generated process for the lysine. The question would be here, obviously, is this chemistry aware? So basically, are all covalent warheads considered if I dock on a cysteine, even though they're designed for an lysine or something like that? It's agnostic. So basically, SeeSAR is agnostic about the chemistry behind this one. This is something you can guide by selecting the right residue, obviously, and also do a pre-filtering of your ligands based on the covalent warhead functionality. So this is a little bit of pre-filtering required. Otherwise, everything else will be considered. Next thing that would be maybe another thing that was introduced in this section. For this, I would like to start with a new PDB. And to not bore you with kinases, I will select something something different, namely cathepsin K. Here we go. What we see here, let me increase the size. So we had this unsaturated sulfone that is now covalently bound to its cysteine here. We take this little fella to the docking mode, and what was now added to the docking selection here under the post-generation parameters is now the stereo center flipping, which is used for any form of docking. If you would like to play around with more stereo isomers of your compounds, you can adjust it here. If you would like to just allow the flipping of R and S centers or E and Z ones, you can select it here. And if you just want to go wide with your stereochemistry, you can select to allow the flipping of both. But what is more important here is the flexible covalent attachment. So basically what was now adjusted in the covalent docking feature of SeeSAR is that this bond of this alpha bond of the heavy atom is now flexible. What does it mean? Previously in SeeSAR, this bond was pretty fixed because we thought it would make sense to have a predefined exit vector for the covalent attachment, because this is something you would observe in a crystal structure, which significantly increases the docking prediction in regards to RMSD. Yet, if you don't have an apo structure, it was a little bit clunky. This is what we have addressed now. So now it's possible to just select the attachment point and the first bond after that. So basically, this fella here is flexible. So now we can twist and turn everything as it should be for covalent docking. So to give you an idea about the difference, we will keep the flexible covalent attachment and just do a redocking of this compound. I will now maybe pin it first and color it in a very ugly green. I will hide the chains to make it a bit more visible, and also the water molecules. And what I will do now, I will start the covalent docking run. Time to breathe. And there we go. Again, I will just rank my compounds, select the best one, and let's have a look. So what do we see here? The left part of the molecule, it's placed okay-ish, I would say. Then we have a little bit of the flipping of this new group here, not perfectly aligned. Then back there, the isopropyl group also not perfectly aligned. And by the end of the day, the piperoid scene, it's okay. I would say it's a pretty decent prediction. Let's see if we can improve that. So I will just select all of those previous predictions, mark them with an hot icon, and then I will go to the post-generation parameter settings and adjust this one. So now this bond here will be kept rigid, this bond here. And if we pay attention now to the results, we'll actually be able to see that it flips a little bit in theory, like it did for my docking runs. So now let's turn it off and do the Covalent Docking run again. So now the new results are in. And the new results with a fixed. So basically, this exit vector will be kept very rigid, no movement at all. And you can see that the alignments become a little bit better. The isopropyl exactly aligned. Also, the piperoid scene has improved. The new ring now is a little bit closer to its original position. So just be aware that we now also have the possibility to adjust the covalent vector attachment point there. Okay. Are there any questions towards the covalent docking? The next question we have, it's related to the stereo enumeration. Is the stereo enumeration limited to stereo centers included in the warheads reaction, or does it affect the other stereo centers? So this definition of the stereo center flipping is on the ligand alone, right? So it's not related to the covalent ligand transformation. This selection is based only for the ligand as it is. During the covalent docking, if a stereo center is introduced, then all stereo center isomers will be considered during the covalent docking run. This parameter setting here is only for the ligands. So even if you would run a standard docking or a template-based docking, this is where you can define that flipping of stereo centers or EZ, is it a center? EZ groups is allowed. So I hope this answers your question. So meanwhile, if you type down, I will just continue with the target view control. So this is something that has changed from 13.0 to 13.1. We now have two sections. One section is that we can change the visibility and the color. So now it's completely separated. So every time there is something you would like to see or not to see, you just go to the section you would like to address, like the target, residues, flip everything on and off, just this binding side. And if there is something that you're really lacking, you can also remove everything. And if you click on the, I think it's a pencil actually. Nevertheless, so basically if you turn off every single residue and then click on the pencil, only those compounds interacting with your complex will be shown. So maybe let's unpin this one. If I now go to surfaces, I can turn on the surface of the protein or the binding site. In this case, it's now calculating the surface of the whole thing. This is the clipping is on at the moment, like this. So this is how you turn on the surface for your whole structure. And if you just would like to see the surface only of the binding site, you can just turn it on like this, and then only the binding site will be displayed. A brief calculation. There you go. So if you would now to modify the appearance of your binding site, you have to switch to color. We are still on surfaces, and click on the surface where you can toggle the transparency of the binding site, adjust the coloring based on log P or anything else, and also obviously set the color of your binding site. So there we go, pretty nice. Something that I really love to push because I just think it's gorgeous. If you go to utilities, you can select the export 3D scene. So maybe let's call it binding site 3D. And now it's exported as a GLB format. So if you go now to PowerPoint, sorry, this one is in German, but I think you get the gist. You can go to Insert and then 3D models. Oops. And then 3D models. And now I'll just load my structure, binding site 3D. And this is how you can add any complex, any binding site to your PowerPoint presentations. You can obviously move it around. And what's the most beautiful part, you can also introduce animations. And if you start this whole thing, it becomes very beautiful. So if you want to augment your presentations, this is how you do it. Something that many people don't know, you can also go pretty wild here. You can even adjust the whole thing a little bit more interesting to be like this. And if you adjust the whole thing to morphing, you can also make it very dynamic. So a little bit of swinging, and then afterwards, you zoom in very smoothly on your whole thing. The question is if it's compatible with Google Slides. It's a good question. I don't know. If Google Slides supports 3D models, then it should be working. It does work for our website though, so I assume that it shouldn't be a problem. Try it out. Okay. Yeah. It doesn't end there, so there are a lot of possibilities of customization. Now it's also possible to color individual chains according to your taste. So to just give you an idea of what is possible as well. Chain visualized. So it's also possible to export the whole thing with its ancillary structure, with the sheets and ribbons, and it looks very beautiful, and you can adjust everything according to your taste. Pretty nice, I would say. Okay. Next, what's on my list? Remote docking. Yes, love it. So, to all the fans of high performance computing and processing of large databases, you may have noticed that now there is a color shift in the docking button, because if you now hover over it to the right side, you can enter the external docking mode. For this, I need to actually first load a new protein. I have selected 2OVJI as an example. Again, I will just need a binding site, therefore I will select this ligand, define my binding site, zoom in, and take this one fella to the docking mode. This time, the external. So, it looks pretty similar to the normal docking mode. You have options for standard docking, you have options for template and covalent docking, setting pharmacophores. Everything remains the same with one exception though. We now have two different tables here. One is for menus. So basically, if you can load any molecules directly into SeeSAR and then send them over for calculations, or you can access libraries directly from inside infiniSee, SeeSAR. To do this, we have now released a very new platform, namely HPC. HPC is our support system for doing large computations, right? Let me log in. So I'll use my credentials. And this is the very first version of HPC called Maya. A very clean interface so far. It's obviously under development, but it does what it's supposed to do, namely managing the docking results. So the first thing you can do is you can create users, right? So if you have a system admin, somebody who's responsible for managing the data sources, this is how you can enter people, names, make them admins, categorize them, organize them, because everybody needs credentials to use the external docking mode. The way HPC was designed is actually to enable large processing of large data sets. So the idea is you have SeeSAR in front of your laptop, PC, whatever your working station. And then if you want to run huge calculations without overwhelming your computer, you just send them somewhere else. So there is a dedicated machine standing somewhere that runs a HPC who does all the calculations for you and then just sends you back the results. For this, people can upload libraries directly into the interface here. You just go to add a library on this button, select your SD file, and upload it. In this case, I have now 3 different libraries. You can add a description to the whole thing. Molecules are counted automatically. You can see who uploaded this library and when it was created. You can also delete them if it's not required. One important thing in the iteration of HPC 1.0 called Maya, it's important and it's required that the libraries and the molecules contain 3D coordinates. So basically, you have to pre-calculate them. You can do this using the conformator tool on our, from us, which does it pretty nicely and pretty fast, and then just straight up upload them. But you need at least some form of 3D coordinates for the compounds. So basically, this is the setup. Right now, this machine running HPC is flying somewhere around in St. Augustine. So basically, the offices of Biosovereignty. And what I will do now, I will just select a library, namely those 31 compounds here, compounds external docking, and start my docking run. So what happens here, SeeSAR is not overwhelmed. 31 compounds are now calculated. I just requested that this compound set is now to be docked at my target structure of interest. Up here, I see a progress bar that informs me where we are now at the moment. And once it's finished, I will get a notification that tells me, hey, your results are now available. Again, it's a pretty interesting concept because if you have a very, so there was a customer who just ran around the company and asked for an old laptop to install HPC on, just to run the calculations on one machine without slowing down the other thing while he checked molecules and SeeSAR. And this is the setup. You can install it on anywhere. It will utilize all the CPUs you have for the calculations. And HPC is designed to actually look into the future and make high-performance computing accessible for all Biosovereignty tools. You see, my docking results are now finished, and I can simply download them. There we go. And voila. Here is my docking prediction and my docking poses. Again, all the things that you are kind of like used to within our tools. You get the traffic light scheme and can assess the compounds by evaluation. This were 31 compounds, and it took me more than 1 minute to actually dock them. So you see, there's a huge gain from using the docking tool. It's also possible, I will now delete the results, to run the other docking runs, namely template-based docking, covalent docking. So for this case, if you would like to run a template-based docking, I would now select this compound, go to the libraries, still run the same one, and do template-based docking. So I've set it to run. Again, you don't have to use the libraries here. If you would just dock whatever set of molecules, you can obviously load the molecules here in the menu, and then they will be displayed in this bar molecules, and then you can also send them for the docking run. Again, I'm finished, so I now just download the results. You will see now my compounds are a little bit better aligned to my initial compound. Now in bluish, and then I can go through the compounds and check the poses. So this is the external docking mode. Very easy to use once you have set it up, quite convenient. And even if you're working with a team that work with the same libraries, it's also a pretty convenient method where you don't create data dumps, right? So because everything is in one place, everything is clean, you know where the molecules are, where the libraries are. You don't have to push them from one computer to another, saves energy, saves time, and you only download those results. So assume you would like to dock more compounds, thousands, 100,000s of them. You would have to download, I don't know, terabytes of data after the post generation, but you can only download the top 50,000 best compounds here because, let's be honest, you would never look at the others. Yeah. Doesn't seem like there are any questions towards the external docking. If there are any, feel free to ask them though. Now it's time for diving into infiniSee. So I will now copy this compound, right click, copy to clipboard as smiles, and then go to infiniSee. I will launch a new instance for that. Voila. infiniSee 6.1 echo. Let's do it. Obviously, the first thing that we are asked what model we would like to use. So we have different search modes. I would like to start with a Covalent hopper here. With copy paste, I will add the molecule of my PDB and start the run. So I will use Galaxy because it's the fastest pace and it's quite convenient for demos. I will go with 100 results and then start the run. So this is what I think most of us do within infiniSee. Just request 100 compounds to see if there's anything that may be of interest to us within the large chemical spaces out there. And in a few seconds, I should get the results. Here we are. So again, it now looks trivial to you, but we are still browsing through 12 billion compounds within seconds. And what I would like to do to show, what I would love to show to you now is the implementation of Hoc libraries. So now I will select all of those compounds here. And after I've selected them, you will notice a new icon here, namely the create Hoc library. What it does, it creates a small enumerated set of your results that can be used in other modes of infiniSee. Which means if I now take this compound and transfer it to the analog hunter, something happens here, namely now in the space selection section, Galaxy is selected, but also the Hoc library. So what I will do now, I will use the Hoc library. It's a source for the upcoming analog hunter run. So I click on this one, start the search. And what I do now, I'm actually using my query compound, the original compound, and calculating tiny motor similarity for my F-trees results, basically for my scaffold hopper results. So what's the take-home message for you? This is a method that allows you to do a very convenient and very quick cross-validation, right? So every docking score that we have for all three modes, those are different scores. And now you can use different scoring methods to actually cross-validate your results. Same goes also for the Motif Matcher. So I will now use my query compound, I throw it into the Motif Matcher, and use my Hoc library of the F-trees results, the scaffold hopper results, and run an MCS search. And there we go. Now we did an MCS search of the Hoc library. You can see the results and are also provided with a similarity here. This is of huge interest because now it's quite easy and quite convenient for you to do scaffold hopping. So basically, F-trees is beautiful for scaffold hopping. We would love to have high F-tree similarity and low tiny motor similarity because this means that this compound is very unrelated, structurally wise, based on the molecular fingerprints to your query compound, but features very similar pharmacophore features. So this is something that you can really nicely use for scaffold toppings. Another addition and augmentation that we now added to infiniSee is a part of the analyzer mode. So now I will just take all my results from the scaffold hopper and push them to the analyzer mode. We'll do the same with all my results for the analog counter and all my results for the Motif Matcher. So now I have 3 times 100 the same compound, but what you will notice here, I have now 3 different columns. So for each dedicated search mode, there's now a particular column for displaying the similarity, displaying the similarity score. So it's now no longer 1 column, but 3 columns, which makes it quite easy for you to assess the compounds. So the way you would operate this one, or one way to operate this, is actually to rank your results from the ad hoc library search after name of the compound. So now you have 3 times the same compound, 1, 2, 3, the same compound, but with different scores. So now you have all of them in one section and can compare them instantaneously, which makes it quite nicely for visual assessment. The next implementation I would like to talk about is actually the addition of new elements. So if you now load in compounds with new germanium, strontium, tellure, they can now be selected. So all of those half metals. Some projects use them, but let's be honest, it's quite rare. Nevertheless, now we are well prepared. You can introduce them to your compounds and also perform the searches within chemical spaces with them. So I'm using the Hoc library. Now back to topic. I will now use Galaxy again. Here, and get the results based on the real compound with half metals. So I know some people work with them. It's nice if you know support them, but you can tell us if there's something else we're missing. So now the best part comes last, right? So now I would like to talk about the R group search. I have prepared an extra project for that. So fragment-based drug discovery, right? I think you all know where this one is heading. Hinge binding motifs. So I've selected this one. R group search is a new method within infiniSee where you can introduce an R group to your compounds by doing it in an easy sketch or adding it to your smiles. And then either use the R on your keyboard to introduce an R group or select it via right click and R. If I now use this molecule as a query, something happens. Namely, the rest of this compound will be kept the same. So I don't allow any substitutions except for the direction that I have selected here. In this case, the position here. So anything else will be left as it is, but the results that I will retrieve will contain a heavy atom in this position and an additional heavy atom if one is existing. So now I'll start the R group search. It won't take too long. Okay, voila. All the results I have retrieved now contain anything in this desired position. I can go lower so you can get a feeling. So what does it tell you? If there's a structure of interest for you, or even a pharmacophore, it becomes now very, very, very efficient to mine for all the possibilities that you can purchase in all spaces, including the real space of enamine, including A molecules explore, and so on and so forth, for all the compounds that contain this particular compound of interest, but also compounds that only contain extensions towards this area. Which means it's also possible for you to add, oops, I'll start another search when I have to go through, sorry. It's also possible to introduce a second or third R group within your molecule. So let's do this. I'll just check. I have no idea if there's something in there. So maybe let's try like this. And start the R group search. no compounds were found. Then let's do it like this. Simply draw this little fella here and add an R here and an R there. So ultimately, if you know the core structure of your compound, pharmacophore, whatever it is, simply put this whole thing inside and then mine for the compounds you're interested in. So again, you can see the core structure is in there and only substitutions in the desired positions were mined from the chemical space. So it looks trivial to you, I would say, maybe, but this is why I've prepared this whole thing. If you now go through the searches, there's a search history up here. Using the graphical user interface onto infiniSee, it's possible to retrieve up to 100,000 molecules in run. If you use the command line versions, you can go up to 1 million compounds per run. What I did here, I actually examined all possible substitutions for this hinge binder here, and I extracted 100,000 of them. So what I'm telling you here, only having substitutions in this position, I can mine easily for 100,000 compounds. 100,000. If you don't believe me, I can go down. So this is where it ends. But obviously there are more. And this is true for all positions, right? If I go to the next entry, it's a huge amount of compounds. There we go. Again, 100,000 results. And then also for this position. And all of them can be synthesized and purchased commercially. The question is if we can specify a molecular weight range prior to the run of this search. So saying I would only have compounds starting from 300 Dalton to kind of like go away from the fragment realm. It's not possible as of now. It is a desired feature, and we are aware that it should be there at some point. Yet it's not there at the moment. To kind of like circumvent this problem, just start with a larger compound, right? If you see something that you really like, you can use this as a query and then build up from the larger compound to check what is commercially available or not. So, to make a long story short, I did this whole one for all positions. At this point, maybe you should just trust me. So in total, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 positions. And if I now go to the analyzer mode, which I did, and I loaded them all there, I get 91,000 different scaffolds for this hinge binder. This is not compounds, those are compound clusters. Each of those clusters contains more than one entry, usually. So this is the power of large chemical spaces coupled with motif searching, coupled with infiniSee, with everything. This is huge, right? This is amazing. This is you would never find on any innovative database I've checked anything that comes even close to the number of scaffolds, yet alone to the number of compounds for this hinge binding motif. This is really, really huge. The question is it possible to draw a query on infiniSee and save the file in STD, smarts, or smarts format and to be then used in command line? Good question. So what you would like to know, it's possible to use Easy Sketch here as a compound. So something like this. But it's not possible to save a query as it is and to be used in other methods. So basically, it's possible for me to just kind of like run something here. Galaxy gets it good. No results found. Thanks more. That's funny. So no, that's a question. Not possible, unfortunately. But if you have your results, it's always possible to save them as SD files. So the SD results, check all, and then use the save icon to store them in an SD file. Then export results as SD file. It's also possible to copy all them as smiles. Okay, this was what I wanted to show you. Surprisingly, it took me a little bit longer than expected, like usually. So, if you still have questions, feel free to type them down or space them out.